Okay, a very good morning to all of you on the call. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the Make Autos Attractive program, where NAMSA, the Automotive Business Council, is running an exciting uh, bespoke program and of Masterclass experience, where we have invited a number of university students across the country to join us on this Masterclass series. We are running 4 episodes of the Masterclass, and we are very happy that you could join us this morning so that we can really be able to share and also hear from some of the insightful and thoughtful presentations that we've lined up throughout this particular series. As I indicated earlier on, and I'm sure many of you have seen, in many of the presentations we've been making, both on social media platforms and also other platforms that we were communicating with you via emails and so on. This masterclass in 2024 is dedicated to a very special person for us in the automotive industry, Brand Pretorius. I'm sure many of you are aware that Brand was the presidential NAMSA Lifetime Achievement recipient in 2023, and we decided that this year we should honor him very, very special, because I think many of us, you'll agree that we normally give people their flowers when they have left us. And we thought that we still have a stalwart with us. We have Brand with us, and it is proper for us to really recognize the illustrious career that he has had in the automotive industry for many, many years. This industry has become largely what it is today because of contributions by people like Brand, and NAMSA and the entire industry has now taken a decision that we should celebrate this giant who is still with us. And today you will obviously be hearing from him, and we want to thank him for making the time to join us. And I'm sure many of you are looking forward to hearing some of his thoughts with us as he continues to enjoy his retirement. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome. My name is Michael Mabasa. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at NAMSA, and this is the first episode of the Masterclass series that we are obviously hosting this year in 2024. We are having 3 other masterclasses, which I'll talk to so that we can be able to inform you when those will be held, and the agenda for all those masterclasses that are coming through later on. This one that we are going to be experiencing today, our title for today is Navigating Global Macroeconomic Developments and Supply Chain Disruptions and Their Impact on the South African automotive industry. And we chose this particular topic very, very carefully because South Africa is obviously a player in the big stage, in the global stage, and it is important for us to be able to get a sense what's happening globally, so that we can really be able to understand those particular dynamics very, very carefully in order for us to be able to make sure that we're able to position the automotive industry in South Africa strategically. We are also very proud that in 2024, this year, the South African automotive industry is celebrating a centenary. We are 100 years old this year, since 1924, and we are very, very proud that we are able to run the automotive industry as proudly as we have been doing over the last couple of years. With that said, I'm also honored this morning that we are joined by NAMSA President, Mr. Billy Tom, who is also the President and also Chief Executive Officer of Isuzu Motors. And Billy is online, and I'm going to take this time now to invite him to give us his opening remarks. Billy, if you don't mind putting on your camera and give us your opening remarks. Thank you very much. Over to you, Billy.
Thank you, Tatana Mabasa, the Chief Executive at NAMSA, who's joining us live from Musina in Limpopo today. Greetings and a very warm word of welcome to everyone who has joined us virtually for this dynamic masterclass experience. We are truly grateful that many of you who have taken the time off to be with us today. I wish to recognize the presence of 18 CEOs from our local vehicle brands who have joined us online, and I wish to thank them for the time they have invested in this wonderful experience. A special word of welcome goes to many of our graduates from 6 universities across the country. This program has been purposefully and deliberately designed as your unique window upon which you will be able to have direct visibility about the automotive industry in South Africa, what we are about as a sector, what our mission is, and what our priorities are. Our aspirations, plans, and how we contribute to the economic life of our country today, and how we intend to do this even more into the future. Remember, this year we're celebrating 100 years of existence. Throughout this masterclass experience, you will hear from different thoughtful and insightful experts who work in different areas across the auto value chain and from other sectors who support the ambitious auto plans we have in South Africa. It doesn't happen every day where industry leaders set time aside from their active schedules to join a platform to engage with young people and those who are keen to learn and know more about the auto industry and what it offers. Today is the beginning and the official launch of the NAMSA Make Autos Attractive program. This year is dedicated to a gentleman who's sitting next to me, from Brand Pretorius. This is the first episode within the 4 NAMSA Masterclass series, which will be held fortnightly starting today on what we have termed Auto Thursdays. Our intention is to curate content about exciting developments and opportunities in the auto sector, to revitalize interest in what we do and profile people, projects, and opportunities to support the growth, resilience, and sustainability of the automotive sector. Throughout the entire series, the masterclasses will drive robust dialogues as well as engagements around topics of interest to graduates and new entrants to the sector, as well as existing partners looking to scale up their activities and enhance their skills about the industry. Secondly, serve as an opportunity to profile future-focused stakeholder projects and initiatives in the segment and disseminate key learnings. Thirdly, identify opportunities for other South African companies to improve their participation in the automotive value chain. And lastly, serve as a strategic engagement platform in the lead up to SA Auto Week 2024, which will take place from the 15th to the 18th of October in 2024 in the beautiful city of Cape Town. We hope that over the next 4 masterclasses, you will join us to hear from industry thought leaders, entrepreneurs, academics, and homegrown success stories as we navigate the South African automotive sector. It is my pleasure to introduce this year's Masterclass ambassador and our keynote speaker today. He is no stranger to the sector, and he is affectionately known by many as Brand. Brand Pretorius is the 2023 NAMSA Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award winner and a well-respected industry stalwart. Following the completion of his Master of Commerce degree in Business Economics, he started his career in 1973 at Toyota South Africa, where he was promoted several times before being appointed Managing Director of Toyota South Africa Marketing in 1988. Under his dynamic leadership, Toyota became a market leader not only in terms of market share, but also customer satisfaction. Because of Brand and his predecessors and successors, Toyota has been a market leader in South Africa for an uninterrupted as well as unprecedented 42 years. By 1995, he joined McCarthy Motor Holdings, the largest retail motor group, as CEO. In 1999, he was then promoted to CEO of his holding company, McCarthy Retail. It is widely acknowledged that Brand played a pivotal role in turning the group around after it was declared insolvent in 2001. He retired as CEO of McCarthy and an executive director of its controlling shareholder Bidvest in March 2011. Since then, Brand has served as chairman and non-executive director on the boards of a number of listed and private companies. He received numerous leadership and marketing awards during his business career, spanning 50 years. His contribution to South Africa has been acknowledged by several organizations, including the South African Institute of Marketing Management in November 2023, and the National Dealer Association, known as NADA, in March 2024. But we must note that naamsa was the first to recognize Brand's extensive contribution with a Lifetime Achievement Award in October 2023. The promotion of education and entrepreneurship initiatives have always held a special focus for Brand, as he serves as the national chairman of the Rally to Read literacy program, which has supported over 600,000 learners. He also serves on the board of Read Educational Trust, as well as Invotech, a business incubator. His contribution in the area has been recognized with 3 honorary professorships and 2 honorary doctorate degrees. Brand is a family man, married to Tanitili, with whom he shares 3 sons and 7 grandchildren. In 2013, he published his seminal book entitled In the Driving Seat, Lessons in Leadership, which quickly became one of the most popular local business biographies, having been reprinted 12 times. With such an expansive and illustrious career, it is truly an honor for naamsa to welcome Brand to address our inaugural masterclass. Join me in welcoming a local icon as well as industry stalwart to share his immense insights with us today. Brand, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Billy, I'm humbled by your kind words. I certainly don't deserve such praise, but I do appreciate it. And I want to thank the whole board of naamsa for the honor bestowed upon me. I'm humbled by it, and I really, really appreciate it. Billy, I'm grateful that you used an abridged version of my CV to introduce me. It reminds me many years ago I had to address a group of cattle farmers. It was the annual convention of the Bonsmara Cattle Breeding Association. And somehow the Master of Ceremonies got hold of the long version of my CV, and he was absolutely determined to read the whole thing. I became increasingly more embarrassed, but when he got to page 3, a farmer who sat in the second row put up his hand. And he kept his hand up there until the MC gave him an opportunity to raise whatever he wanted to raise. And this is what he said. He said, for heaven's sake, we don't want to breed with Brand, we just want to listen to him. So from that day onwards, I've been very sensitive to long introductions. I want to thank Michael and his very, very capable team for all the arrangements. I'm so impressed Mr. CEO, with the professionalism of you and your team. I want to recognize as the first group of VIPs, all the naamsa CEOs. I can just say that I feel very intimidated knowing that the CEOs of all the motor companies are part of the program here this morning. I also want to recognize as VIPs all the students who are participating in this masterclass. You are the future. It will be up to you to take the South African motor industry into the next century and to ensure its sustainability. So I want to dedicate this talk to all the students out there. The CEO asked me to talk about guidelines for sustainable personal success in a very, very tough environment. It's a complicated, multi-dimensional task that he has given me. It's a universal ambition. Everybody wants to be successful. But it's a complicated task. It necessitates some deliberate effort. It is imperative that should you want to be successful, you have to put emphasis on all the critical success factors. Am I equipped to talk about guidelines for sustainable success? I have made many, many mistakes. Over the past 53 years in business, I've also learned many lessons. And I have been blessed because during my career in the motor industry, spanning more than 50 years, I could learn from a number of role models. Not only business people. The first role model I learned an enormous amount from is my mother. I'm not going to tell you a lot about my mother, but perhaps I can just say that in her case, she lived by the credo of kindness changes everything. She was loving and caring and principled. My other role model is my wife. Tilly is the most principled person that I know. And then at both Toyota and at McCarthy, I had the privilege of working with some amazing people. So when I share with you guidelines for sustainable personal success, right at the end of my talk, I will also refer to that elusive thing called fulfillment. So I would like you to listen to what I have to say. I will base it on what I experienced, what I learned, but I will also share with you what I stand for and believe in. I'll do it with conviction, but also with humility. But before we talk about guidelines for sustainable personal success, let me share a few thoughts with you regarding the macro environment. You've all heard futurists talk about VUCA when they describe the environment we are living in. Volatile, unpredictable, complex, and ambiguous. The VUCA environment has come about because of the impact of the internet and social media, big data analytics, artificial intelligence, robotics, the list is long. The technology tsunami is not over yet. In fact, the pace of technological innovation is accelerating. Science fiction has become science fact. The technological platform, the application for technology, is ever expanding. And then, to complicate matters, we have what is called so-called black swan events like COVID-19 and the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, just to mention two. Futurists talked about the new normal, but things have become so complicated, so ever-changing, that they now talk about the era of the never normal. One thing is certain: the future won't be an extension of the past. Yesterday's profits won't guarantee tomorrow's. The world is not becoming more orderly, the world is becoming more disorderly. So, against that backdrop, what should we do? If I put myself in the position of one of the students who's listening to me, what is the advice that I would like to give you? The first point that I want to make is remain hopeful. Hope is life itself. Hope sees the invisible. Hope feels the intangible. And hope achieves the impossible. Remain hopeful about the world, about our country, about our industry, and remain hopeful about your future. There's no need to despair. We live in a high risk, high opportunity environment. Don't allow your worst fears to govern your life. Be hopeful and do hope, because the minute you do hope, the minute you get involved, the minute you make a difference, that action that you take drives away fear. So my appeal to you is remain hopeful and get involved. Second point, don't seek shelter from the technology tsunami or the volatility. Don't go and hide. Rather learn how to dance in the wind and in the rain. Be agile, be responsive, be creative. The big challenge in such an environment is to transform and perform simultaneously. All of us have to transform in order to fit into this new environment, and simultaneously we have to perform, because competition has never been more intense. I read an article recently in that regard, and it said, in today's world, you're either 1 or 0. If you don't make dust, you'll eat dust. So rather strive to be number 1. Third guideline, accept the responsibility for your own future. Have a positive vision. Aim high. Steve Jobs, shortly after he started Apple, shared his vision with his team, and he said, we are going to make a dent in the universe. That is a bold vision. Michelangelo said, the greatest danger for most of us is not that we aim too high and miss it. The greatest danger for most of us is that we aim too low and achieve it. You have enormous potential. Aim high. Next guideline. Master the art and the science of leadership of self. Before you can lead other people, you have to be a master at leading yourself. You're going to need some attributes, some skills. First one, you want to lead yourself successfully, you have to have a high level of moral intelligence. You must know exactly what is right and what is wrong. That little voice, your conscience, will tell you what is right and what is wrong. You need emotional intelligence, because you're going to continue to work under enormous pressure. You must be able to control, manage your own emotions, and be sensitive to the emotions of other people. You need relational intelligence, because relationships make the world go round. Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you did. People will forget what you said, but people will never forget how you made them feel. If you want to lead yourself properly, you need self-discipline. To do what you need to do when you have to do it, whether you feel like it or not. You need to be humble. The opposite of humility is arrogance. Arrogance is a major hindrance. It's not a critical success factor at all. Last attribute that you need for leadership of self is perseverance. It's always too soon to quit. When McCarthy was bankrupt, it took us about 3 months to get the 8 banks we owed 2 billion rand to together in the same boardroom with their legal advisors. It was a critical meeting that was going to determine the fate of 15,000 McCarthy employees. We started at 9 in the morning. Many a time during the course of that day, people wanted to abandon the meeting. Our objective was to get them to agree to convert the money we owed them, our loans, into capital. At 2 o'clock in the morning, on the 14th of March 2001, we signed a debt restructuring agreement that saved the group. Perseverance pays. If you want to be successful, you also need to have the skills and the ability to manage your own productivity. My recommendation is, if you don't already have it, develop a discipline that helps you to plan and to coordinate and to control your own productivity. Sometimes we just spin our wheels. The things we do don't translate into achievement. There's no focus. There's only attention to the urgent and not to the important. Turbocharge your own effectiveness and efficiency. I'm not aware of any disorganized person who became super successful. Next guideline. Live and work according to the right principles and values. Many years ago, in the year 1978, my boss said to me, "Don't spend this coming weekend thinking about the principles and the values you stand for. Write those principles and values on a piece of paper and sign that piece of paper." and keep it with you. I have such a personal code of conduct. I committed to integrity, to fairness, to consistency, to justice. I committed to the acceptance of responsibility, teamwork, excellence in everything I do. I want to lift out one principle or one benefit of integrity. And that's my next guideline. If you want to be successful, then you must earn people's trust. Trust trumps everything. If you're not trustworthy, then the likelihood of you being successful is very, very remote. Next guideline, attitude determines altitude. Why do you get up in the morning? Does your life have a purpose? The Japanese talk about ikigai. What drives you? Make sure that you live a purpose-driven life. Life is about 10%, or let me put it differently. Whatever happens to you, you can turn it around provided you have the right attitude. Be optimistic. Optimism doubles energy. Have a positive can-do attitude. Second last attribute or critical success factor. Commit to lifelong learning. Try and keep pace with technology. Ensure that your toolbox remains up to date. I had the privilege of working for the late Dr. Albert Wessels, the founder of Toyota SA. Even at the age of 80, he was still curious. When he had conversations, the conversations comprised of questions. He slept about 4 hours a night and segmented his nights to broaden his knowledge base. In times of change, learners inherit the earth. Gandhi said, live as if today is your last day and learn as if you're going to live forever. Last critical success factor, rather than concentrating on your ambition, rather concentrate on your results. Successful people deliver results. They get the job done. I once appointed a person at Toyota. He impressed me during the interview because he spoke beautifully. At least 3-4 times a month I said to him, well said, but I hardly ever got the opportunity to say, well done. And for that reason, his tenure at Toyota was rather short. Make sure that you deliver the goods. Somebody said in a meeting some time ago, less buzz and more honey is required. Let me conclude. I've touched on a number of guidelines for sustainable personal success. It entails working at success at three levels: the level of the head, the level of the heart, and the mobilization of the hands. I want to emphasize that all these important critical success factors will mean nothing if you don't put in the requisite effort. There's no shortcut, no substitute for dedication and for hard work. Does career success automatically deliver fulfillment? Unfortunately not. Other achievements play a more important role in getting you to the point where you feel fulfilled than just career success. First one, if you feel at the end of your career that you've realized your God-given potential, that delivers fulfillment. If you feel that you've had a successful career and you never compromised your integrity, you never lost your self-respect, that brings fulfillment. If you feel that you led a balanced life, that you really lived, that you laughed, that you loved, that delivers fulfillment. If you feel that you've achieved your higher purpose, that you're leaving a legacy that people would refer to as a rich blessing, that delivers fulfillment. But my last message to you is the following. The greatest source of fulfillment is the quality of the relationships you have with the people you love. When you get to the end of your career, do the people you love still love you? I want to wish each and every one of you success, happiness, joy, and fulfillment in abundance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brand. Thank you. That was very, very inspiring indeed. And, people like us can listen to you the whole day because you are not just an inspiration and a leader that we will always look up to, but you are also a very inspiring person in your own right. So I think you've inspired many of us, including our CEOs who are on this call today, including many of the leaders that are on this call today, and most importantly, the young people in universities that we've invited to come and listen to you today, because we want to make the automotive industry attractive and bring in young people to come and follow on footsteps of giants like Brand Pretorius. So thank you very much. It's a pity that you are not able to hear the loudest applause that the many people who are on this call, in their hearts, in their homes, in their cars, in their offices, are giving to you. But I think on their behalf, once again, thank you very much for that lovely message. I want to also remind our colleagues who are on the line that Brand is an author of a very, very fantastic book that I had the privilege of reading. It's called In the Driving Seat. And most of the points that Brand raised this morning are in that particular book. And I want to encourage you to continue to support these masterclasses, because we have 100 copies which Brand has signed himself personally, which we are going to make available to those of us who are registered on these masterclasses and who have also who are also going to be attending the masterclasses, the 4 episodes, as we have already indicated. Once again, Brand, thank you very much for the lovely message. Like I said to you earlier when we started, that I would be very generous with the time so that you can be able to talk to the message at best as you can. So I think, and you've done that with flying colors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, thank you very much. With that said, we are now going to shift gears. We have obviously invited some thought leaders in our industry who have joined us this morning, and I'm going to take this time to invite one of them to put on his camera as I introduce him. There he is, Mr. Greg Kress. But before I introduce Greg, I want to also encourage all of us who are on the call, if you've got any questions that you wish to ask Brand, and of course, some of our thought leaders who are going to be presenting this morning, please do type in your questions on the Q&A. If you go to the Q&A on the site, you'll see there is your ability to be able to ask questions, and we will make the time, hopefully, before the end of this call at 12 o'clock, to try and get as many of your questions answered by those who are on the line with us. Greg Kress is the Principal Director at Accenture South Africa, leading the automotive and e-mobility practice. With 25 years of experience delivering digital transformation projects for clients operating in the telecoms and the automotive industries across the Southern African region, Greg is also a leading advocate within Accenture for futures thinking and navigating technology disruptions, having established a scenario planning consultancy prior to joining Accenture. With the transportation and mobility industries currently going through profound levels of transformation, Greg works very closely with us as a sector, and also other sectors like energy, retail, mining, and logistics clients to capitalize on opportunities for growth and mobility. Greg has previously worked with Siemens, Nokia Siemens Networks, and a tech startup called Luminet Communication. He holds a BSc in electronic engineering from UKZN and also an MBA from Oxford Brookes University, and has various short courses qualifications, both in SEED and also MIT Management Sloan Schools. Greg, as you can see on your screens, is going to speak to us about how we absorb disruptions, the automotive strategic plans to tackle a new world. Mr. Chris, over to you.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction, and Tata Mabasa, and good morning to everyone on the call this morning. To Mr. Brunt Pretorius, what an inspirational talk that was. I think we are truly in the company of greatness. To all the CEOs of our SA automotive industry, good morning, as well as to the ecosystem partners, our associate members, and of course, all the students that have joined this call, really for whom this Auto Masterclass series is all about. So thank you for the introduction. I'm very passionate about the success of the Southern African automotive industry, and in particular, how we're going to collectively transition to a future of sustainable mobility. So it's a privilege to be here this morning, and thanks for the invitation to present. So with that said, I think the masterclass today is really about understanding how ripples occurring through the global automotive supply chain might impact South Africa and indeed our automotive sector. So I just want to share with you today some perspectives from a research exercise and paper that we conducted into a global supply chain resilience in the automotive sector. And we've called this Absorbing Disruptions, Automotive's Strategic Plan to Tackle a New World. There's no doubt that the global automotive industry is about to enter one of its most turbulent eras in many years. In fact, we're in this turbulence already. And South Africa is not going to be immune to these headwinds of change. But with this disruption and change comes risks, but opportunity as well. And it will be those organizations that can build resilience and flexibility into their operations that will emerge as winners. So as we stand here in 2024, it's becoming more and more apparent that automotive needs to have what we call a new global positioning system. I think for a long time, OEMs around the world have benefited from this interconnected, globalized economy, leveraging open markets and reduced trade barriers. And that has led to steady sales growth, intense innovation, cost efficiencies, and lower prices across the board. Significant growth has really come from the Chinese car market in recent times, which has now emerged as the world's largest automotive market. But in recent times, we've all seen the major challenges and shifts coming on the horizon. The pandemic, the war in Ukraine, the rising geopolitical tensions have all revealed fragilities in the global supply chain. It's created disruptions. There's been raw material shortages, semiconductor shortages, coupled with rising inflation, making it difficult for consumers to afford these products as well. And these current disruptions are far more far-reaching than recent shocks like the global financial crisis. Also, we've started to see this rise of what we call protectionism, which is countries putting up barriers in the form of increased tariffs to slow the imports of competitive products that threaten to undercut the domestic product pricing and disrupt local manufacturing operations. And it'll be very interesting to see how the world will respond with those continuing. So to adapt, we must undergo as an industry what we call compressed transformation, which is really rapid, simultaneous changes across multiple organizational parts. And this is essential really due to this, this rapid switch that's happening to e-mobility as well as towards green business practices. So within this crisis, there's opportunity. So if we view these as opportunities, we'll see really how we can adapt to grow out of it. So similar to how the Zoom economy was created out of COVID, I think we'll see a similar success stories emerging in the automotive sector. So we need to consider as OEMs, as an industry, a complete strategic refit in order to be adaptable across this changing landscape. With increasing prices and price volatility, with shifting centers of value creation, country-level protectionism rising, and of course, across the board is the rise of data and AI. In our research, we found that around 86% of companies are what we call transformers, which only focus on small parts or isolated parts of their business when transforming their operations. And it's often treated as a finite linear process and not continuous, and it does not bring the gains that are expected. So with these changing uncertainties, we really need to see how geopolitical volatility is going to reshape these OEM strategies. The shift from internal combustion engines towards electric vehicles and green business is really just adding another complexity layer. So we must really consider a comprehensive transformation, an end-to-end transformation, if you will. It requires being able to constantly develop new products, test and pilot new processes, and be far more flexible and be more resilient to these changes that are actually coming in the market. Amongst all of this, the role of technology is going to be absolutely key. At Accenture, we refer to a term that we call the digital core, which is really your organization's technology stack across automation, AI, data analytics, and cloud, and how you are prepared and mature in all of those areas to use that as a competitive advantage. And I think we're seeing a lot of response from the market to say that getting the technology right in your business is going to be crucial to withstanding these shocks that are coming. So how do we reinvent supply for a disrupted world? So we're seeing these ripple effects of this global supply chain in the automotive industry going across the world in what seems like a continuous stream of disruptions. We see globalization has separated procurement, production, and sales markets. I mean, for example, critical minerals mined in Africa are made into batteries in Asia, which are then sold in Europe. And these recent trends and crises are showing how global supply chains are struggling to absorb this disruption. What is the impact, as an example? Well, in the Ukraine war, OEMs that were sourcing wire harnesses from Ukraine at a cost efficiency of around €3 per hour versus 54 euros per hour in Germany were suddenly cut off with their supply when that war started. And that creates the sort of disruption that's actually occurring. And as a result of that, you're seeing this shift in priorities, from pure cost towards availability and speed are becoming more important. The time to market is becoming more important to be more responsive to the consumer demands that are emerging. So with these new sourcing strategies, what we are seeing is that OEMs are adopting reshoring, local for global or local for local, and decoupling strategies that are really prioritizing this availability and speed approach over the cost approach. So when you look at the sort of options available, you shouldn't have to choose really between optimizing availability or cost. We think you can do both. And we've got 10 strategic steps that I'll take you through shortly, with which I will unapologetically call disruption shock absorbers, to use an automotive analogy, as we go through these. So these are the first 5. So the first one is what we call combining global and local supply. And this is about reviving, the need for dual and multiple sourcing strategies, which was somewhat abandoned previously for these single sourced components. And what this means is that you need to really have a low-cost location to provide your primary supply sources, to keep costs reasonable for the base quantity. But really, to ensure adaptability and flexibility, it's critical to have an alternative set of at least one or more local suppliers to act as a buffer against these unexpected surges in demand in the market. So having a low-cost, long-distance supplier to act as a buffer and providing most of the stock, but the local suppliers are going to be crucial as the shock absorbers for the fluctuations in demand. And this is becoming more and more relevant specifically for critical components like semiconductors, EV batteries, and ordinary parts such as wire harnesses and door locks. As an example, Skoda in Europe has a partnership with PEKM Kabel Technique, which is a duplication of the Ukrainian wire harness manufacturing example I mentioned earlier, which they leverage on when the supply and demand actually changes. And with South Africa's very mature components industry, I think we have the ability to be really well positioned to set this strategy up. Step 2 is about controlling value-added processes. So what we're seeing is that there's actually a shift away from pure lean management towards more inventory management. And this is more about maintaining additional inventory of critical parts specifically to manage these buffers. Example being Toyota's plan to require suppliers to have a store of around 2 to 6 months worth of semiconductors, really to reduce those delivery issues we experienced during the semiconductor crisis. So it required an over-manufacturing investment, but they've reached this equilibrium now. And this impact of shorter delivery times is really also a key impactor towards competitiveness. Another example being the Chinese manufacturers being able to gain entry into Europe through leveraging their shorter delivery times when the European partners couldn't deliver, specifically allowing those Chinese OEMs to support the electric offensive that's happened in Europe to meet the demand specifically coming from the rental car industry. So this is about really managing and using your processes wisely in order to absorb those shocks. Step 3 is about what we say, bringing more of the supply chain in-house. And this is really all about vertical integration. By increasing in-house vertical integration, you can really enhance the supply security and reduce any uncertainties in that change. But it does require very significant, substantial upfront costs to get to a vertically integrated supply chain. What it does provide you, though, is faster learnings and a feedback loop to become more responsive to the market as well. What is some of the considerations that OEMs can consider here for vertical integration? I mean, as an example, take China's BYD. They are at the moment able to produce for their vehicles a complete 8-in-1 powertrain. They've got their own blade lithium-ion LFP batteries. They've got their own in-house made onboard charger. They have their own PM synchronous motors. And there are perhaps disadvantages to that. There are risks being fully integrated, but their speed to market, I think, is unprecedented, as well as their cost control. And this is in stark contrast to perhaps traditional wide open ecosystems where you have multiple third parties all having to supply just in time. So very much a balance in this space, but we are seeing that vertical integration strategy is working particularly well in, for example, the Chinese market. Step 4 is about digitizing the supply chain. And this is all about the application of digital tools and solutions. So this is essential really to make supply chains faster, more efficient, and more robust. Better supply chain visibility is really a key agenda point for many of the CXOs that we researched in this project. And it's about establishing transparency being a key factor. And in order to achieve that transparency, the usage of cloud solutions, of data lakes and data analytics is crucial. We're also seeing very interesting applications of technologies like blockchain to be able to use advanced analytics to enhance the performance of the management and by identifying and handling risks or exceptions. And then there's also the topic of automated management, which is really the efficiencies you can get in your warehouse management, in your transportation, and in your inventory, and automatically managing the forecasts of inventories. So again, this digitization coming into the supply chain is so important. Really good example, I think, is BMW's part chain, which uses blockchain and cloud technologies for transparency in the raw materials and the components of the supply chain. And another example being Catena X, which is an open data ecosystem in Europe, digital end-to-end supply chains with secure, standardized data exchange across 28 suppliers in Germany, I think are really good examples of the acceleration gains that you can get from this digitization of a supply chain. And then on the fifth point in terms of this section, reducing, reusing, and recycling, topic very, very close to my heart around sustainability. But this world that we're living in is faced with these sustainability challenges and opportunities. And the OEMs, the automotive sectors around the world have got such a key role to play in setting the bar for what recycling, reducing, and repurposing should be. Material circularity actually reduces exposure to volatile supply chains and material prices, because if you can keep these raw materials in use for longer, and at a higher value to absorb the value chain shocks, it actually then helps with the bottom line. As an example, JB Straubel from Redwood Materials has made some statements around what he calls a strategic stockpile of critical minerals that are now building up in the US in the form of lithium-ion batteries and phones and devices and tablets and laptops, and indeed in EVs as well, that can all be not only recycled, but repurposed or urban mined, if you will, at a lower cost than what it would take to try and explore and set up a new mining operation. So the recycling aspect of minerals and of assets is so key. And it means that we need a proper end-of-life resource management approach that really minimizes waste and resource consumption, and it puts circularity more at the forefront of the strategy. And it's going to be even more important with the rise of electric vehicles. I mean, the International Energy Agency is forecasting that there should be around 17 million more EVs sold in 2024. That really equates to being 1 in every 5 cars sold in the world this year being an electric vehicle. So this is an absolutely crucial topic. We are also seeing guidance and frameworks coming from certain organizations like this one, which is the World Economic Forum Circular Cars Initiative, providing a guide for the industry. So be on the lookout for these types of frameworks, and particularly the narrative that is forming around recycling and the circular economy. Moving into flexibility, just the second 5 points I'd like to go through. You know, we've long had this long period of a global market expansion, and this has really allowed OEMs around the world to increase sales in new international markets, focusing on high margin products. But there are also pitfalls on having a singular focus on a market dependence. A heavy dependence on a single market, particularly in China, could pose risks, even though it accounts for more than 1/3 of global sales. So what we're saying really is just to get ready for the strategic shift and to start seeing a need for a more globally balanced sales distribution to really reduce the dependency on these singular markets. And for the global automotive market to reduce the reliance on the Chinese market, we really have to strengthen the other regions, including Africa. I think this is really the next frontier. So as such, we need much more flexibility for OEMs to be able to address these increasing unpredictable market conditions and these consumer demands that are very fickle and in terms of global and local markets. So these are the 5 steps I'd like to take you through on this topic. Step 6 here is about then facilitating this omni-channel experience through the technologies we're seeing emerging that consumers are familiar with. Metaverse, VR, Gen AI, these are the technologies of the day and are mostly being driven on the consumer front end. And it's creating something we call a liquid expectation. If a consumer is experiencing these types of channels and these types of technologies in another industry, they're going to want to expect it from the automotive industry as well. So it enables OEMs to think more carefully about the direct sales model, the brand presence that you can offer directly to the consumer in the channels that they're in. This is really a way to reduce just the dependency on having physical and retail presence only, but also to diversify, dependence on geographies as well as on locations. Digital sales tools are definitely there to be used. Online purchases, virtual test drives are really driving sales conversations now and are offering a complete and localized consumer experience. And this is really driving, I think, the shift in becoming what we call a new term called phygital, which is a mix of physical and digital channels. And that's also allowing operational efficiencies to emerge, particularly in terms of delivery, maintenance, repair, and sending over-the-air updates to these cars in a virtual way, in a very consumer-friendly way. So as an example, we see Fiat creating a metaverse store on the Stellantis side with personalized car buying experience and virtual salespeople being engaged. On the screen, you'll see an Apple Vision Pro. These are the types of consumer technologies that are going to be more common in the next, say, 2 to 5 years. So this is really an exciting part of the consumer side of the equation that we need to focus on. If we shift towards manufacturing, it's about getting flexible now with automated manufacturing cells. So I think where we were in the past, and maybe to a large extent today, mass production in manufacturing with fixed facilities to get to a fixed output is becoming slightly outdated, really due to the dynamic market needs that are driving demand and supply around the world. 25% of North American executives that were interviewed said that they really need to change their products on the product line or on the same facility up to 6 or more times annually. So being very flexible on the plant line and on the manufacturing line is going to become a key competitive differentiator. And we need the skills for people to be able to do that kind of fast adjustment to switch between products. I think as an example, we saw Mercedes recently implement a flexible production cell system in one of their body shops. And coupled to this kind of flexible manufacturing cells is digital manufacturing, also starting to take more of a front stage. So I'm talking about digital twins and the use of digital twins to forecast and simulate product lines as well as to manage and plan for maintenance. Efficiency will come through automation as well, through ERP software, through automated guided robots, through improving the efficiencies and the output. An example on this maybe is NIO in China again. There's a factory there in Anhui, 97.5% automated, producing 20 models an hour with just the key staff required to do that. But if you were to duplicate that multiple times, can you imagine the scale that we could reach for that? So it's about adapting, it's about being flexible on the sales side, but also in the manufacturing side. Step 8 is about regional digital systems, and this is really focused on the importance of data and analytics. So it's essential for adapting to the economic instability and gaining a competitive advantage. If you can imagine, with the amount of EVs going onto the road and all of them continuously connected, continuously uploading local data to the cloud, and it's about utilizing that local data in the geography where the data is produced. That becomes a key competitive advantage. It also becomes very important to know where and how you can store all of this data, because there are rules and regulations around shifting data across borders. And this becomes even more prominent with the rise of EVs. So with these trade barriers and data restrictions in place, we need to be really organized and strategic about the data consumption, the data storage, and the data usage. And there's 3 typical areas around how to do this. It's around separating data, having separated infrastructure, and having separated platforms with various levels of implementation in terms of how you actually manage and secure that data. But the key message again here really is that regional digital systems are going to be key. So for South Africa, for Africa, we need to have an approach that looks at this from a regional perspective. Step 9, very critical, I think, for this call, for this class, for the people on this call, is about the local leadership leading the way with local knowledge and understanding of the markets that we work in and that we're expanding into, particularly into Africa. I think historically, for all the right reasons, when OEMs expanded and set up shop in various markets around the world, crucial to send people from the headquarters, expats with knowledge of the business process to set that up. But what we've seen over the course of South Africa's automotive history and around the world is the rise of local leaders leading the way. And this is a key differentiator that I think we can be proud in South Africa, at least, to say that this is what we are living every day. Because it really has become a strategic advantage. So I think this is a key one for us to continue to do and to continue to attract new talents into the sector from the people that we are addressing on the call. And then finally on step 10, one of my passions is futures scenario planning and futures forecasting, and it's about being able to almost learn from the future. There's a term called return of capital employed or return on invested capital, ROIC, and it traditionally has done a good job of managing and measuring profitability and capital efficiency, but it's less effective during major industry changes like what we're going through now. The reason is because it's more backward looking in terms of its trend analysis, and it doesn't really reflect the true performance of what a bold decision could be in the market around making an investment decision for a new plant, for example. And this is going to particularly impact us in Africa if we are unable to convince our OEM headquarters that South Africa is a place to invest in. And this is going to be a crucial collective effort for us to show that the demand for the latest vehicles, for the newest vehicles, for the cleanest vehicles is going to come. And we're going to help stimulate that demand. So being able to be flexible in the financial systems to make this investment into Africa, to build the next generation of the vehicles that we want to see, and that I'm pretty sure that the demand will come from a consumer side is going to be really, really important. It's about having foresight versus hindsight and not underestimating this exponential change that's ahead. And just if you recall 30 years ago, 1993, 1994, when the first mobile networks came into South Africa, the expectation was that there would only be a maximum of 250,000 mobile phone users back in that time. We all know how that ended. I mean, there are now more than 80 million subscriptions in South Africa, and I think we'll see a similar pattern emerge with the next generation of vehicles in South Africa, provided we can make them affordable and within reach. So test and pilot new models. Don't be afraid to make the investments. Use South Africa and volunteer South Africa as a test bed, if you will, for the global headquarters to look at, particularly for new innovations. So in closing, I think just to say again, we are living through a persistent geopolitical and macroeconomic set of challenges. Recent developments may be more or signify more than just a temporary economic downturn. Don't expect a return to normal or a return to the past. I think we are in the new normal right now. The impact that we're seeing on the automotive market is real. Again, it brings risks, but it brings opportunities. And it's up to us to have hope, as Brunt said, to be able to capitalize on those opportunities. So let's collectively build this path to success. It depends on developing change management capabilities and continuous transformation and implementing this enterprise-wide reinvention approach with a focus on technology and local talent. Ntate Mabasa, Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity. Hopefully that was insightful.
Absolutely, absolutely insightful indeed. Thank you very much, Ntate Chris. That was amazing. And for those of you, obviously, who would want to engage, just to give you a prelude that Greg will be at the SA Auto Week later this year, between the 15th and the 18th of October, on a much bigger stage, so that he can be able to share some of these insights with a much bigger audience, bigger than the one that we have today. So Greg, fantastic insights. Thank you very much once again. And we look forward to some questions. I see already one or two questions that have come through. And I want to obviously encourage our guests on the line to bring and to continue to type those questions through, because we are going to be asking some of these questions to our panel during this particular session before 12 o'clock. Keep those questions coming through and type them through. And then what we'll also do, we will open the line. For those of you who do have questions, we will definitely give you an opportunity to raise your hand. And once your hand is up, you can also be able to, if you can be able to turn on your video, we can then be able to take your question live on this particular channel. So think about your questions. I see Karen has already asked a question to Brandt, where she's asking, Mr. Pretorius, what are your thoughts on the shift towards e-mobility in the country with a robust internal combustion engine automotive industry like we have here in South Africa? But we'll obviously give Brandt that opportunity to respond to that question later on. I'm now going to shift gears to our next speaker, and Tate Hashani Mohale, who is a seasoned industrial development specialist in his own right, with extensive experience in strategy, design, and execution, production management, and also business improvement. He has a multi-sector experience from different sectors, including South African breweries, SAB Miller, Anglo Gold Ashanti, and Ectom. He's currently a senior industry specialist at the Industrial Development Corporation of South Africa, supporting the battery value chain, digital economy, and also the renewable energy sector. Tate Mohale, thank you very much for joining us. Over to you, Tate Mohale. Yeah, if you can unmute, Tate Mohale, we should be able to, we can see your screen. If you can put it also on presentation mode.
No, I'm with you. It's just that I have only one screen, so I had to choose to load the presentation first or start talking. Folks, thank you very much. Can you confirm if you can see my screen?
We can indeed see your screen. Thank you.
In presentation mode? No, it's not in presentation.
Yeah, if you can put it on presentation mode, that will be excellent.
Okay. Apologies. Okay. Moved on my side.
Yeah, perfect. It's now in presentation mode.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, folks. Thank you very much for allowing me to share the stage with Brandt. I must admit, I was doing fine until he said that he's intimidated. So I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but it's really an honor. Thank you so much. Let me try to speed through what I had. I think it's probably better to get to the Q&A phase. So I'm going to fly through what I had planned to share. But let me not assume that you know IDC. When I was a student, I knew nothing about IDC. So we're a development finance institution founded in 1941, state-owned, but only capitalized way back then in the 40s. So we're totally independent. And we do the full suite of investment products, and we support a whole lot of businesses in different phases, particularly including project development, which is what might be relevant for today's discussion. But we also provide a whole lot of other services in developing industry. So we're not just financiers, but we have dedicated teams that develop value chains, and I'm in one of those teams. Sorry, just when we say project development, so that I don't have to come back to this, we take projects from concept up to bankable feasibility. So we finance the bankable feasibility studies to get it to bankable, and then still develop or finance the commercial phase of the project as well. Okay, so this is probably the key slide of what I would like to share. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time here. But what it is really is just a story, right? We've been going on a bit of a roadshow around the world, speaking to some OEMs in the battery component and cell manufacturing and EV manufacturing sector, and I'm talking the largest in the world, some of whom already have a presence here. But it became very clear to us that despite these known facts that are on your screen now, the people in the know, there's some work needed to put these into a story, a cohesive story and a value proposition, right? If you go around the world now, everybody's got their attention on Asia, Europe, and North America, and rightfully so. Why would they even think about South Africa? So this is our little story to say, hang on, we actually have quite a bit to offer, and I'd just like to break it down in a cohesive fashion, if you like. So the first thing is that, related to the automotive sector, particularly the EV side of it, I think we need to look at the electricity market. Of course, if you are a citizen, that's a major problem, right? But if you're in the industry, that problem comes with many opportunities. So last year we imported 6.5 gigawatt hours of cells. Half of those were just cells that then became assembled into batteries by local battery assemblers who also produce or design and manufacture their own battery management systems, etc. So there's a lot of capability already established in the country. They just struggle with scale and, of course, balance sheets to participate in these big projects. According to SARM, we're expecting about 16 gigawatt hours of battery to be procured by the state in 3 years from 2025. And of course, all these figures, I don't believe that includes the private sector, which has just recently been liberated to generate their own electricity. So I think there's more to come. But yeah, right now as it is, we already have probably the most dynamic electricity market in the world, I believe. And then block 2 and 3, now I'm going to preach to the choir a little bit. But again, it's really about, can we tell a story here, right? And I must admit, these numbers are not obvious to people in the industry. So let's just break it down a little bit. Of course, we have our local manufacturers here who've been in this country for as long as 100 years in some cases, with a well-established policy now, manufacturing policy, incentive policy that is largely geared for export, and that's the next block will explain that. But what people tend to miss is that we have about 40% local content, and I think that is something to brag about, right? And then when South Africans talk, I mean, we always talk about load shedding, issues at Transnet, all these challenges that we're facing. But I just want to point out that, through stage 6 load shedding, another manufacturer decided to put up a very sophisticated plant in South Africa, again, geared for export. And that's Stellantis, right? We've also got BAIC in the country, hopefully ramping up to CKD. And then, of course, those stats. But out of that, just want to highlight the minimum 250,000 units per annum going out to the European Union and the US and the UK. And our free trade agreement with the US, with the EU and the UK allows us to export products to their market duty-free, subject to rules of origin, etc. And similarly, we can export to the US at about 2% duty, which is, you can say that's nothing as well, right? But in addition to that, with our AIS, we also, in a cumulative fashion, so the sum of the two is, we also incentivize production in South Africa. So exporting to anywhere in the world earns you credit, so you can import components duty-free, subject to the local content of your export, etc. So, but effectively, I don't know if I can say all our local manufacturers, but at least most of them pretty much achieve duty-free imports of their components to the extent that they actually have excess credits. Again, then of course we're a gateway to Europe, but also to Africa. We've got other incentives that other countries have as well, capex incentives with the AIS, but the SEZ as well, and now the recent EV tax rebate that's just been approved. Okay. All we're saying here is that we have an offering that is still attractive, even for businesses that are transitioning to the EV market. We have an ICE offering that is still attractive. Of course, transitioning our market to electric might be a bit of a challenge. There's hybrids in between, but at some stage you have to support the industry in that transformation. But for now, it's not doom and gloom. There's a lot that we can still look forward to. And then on the mineral side, we're known for this, but just to highlight that in the sub-region, pretty much all of them are available on the subcontinent. And IDC has a mandate to invest across the whole of Africa. So we have the ability to piece things together. So all those 4 blocks for us provide one massive opportunity, that we can present as an offering to any prospective partners. And then, of course, the last one is who we are, how we do things. So we're multi-sectoral. We have a checkbook to back our own strategies. We invest about 20 billion rand per annum in about 200 different transactions, etc. So we can handhold somebody into the country, and really what we're aiming for is localization of this economy. So there's a thriving market or thriving industry and new supply chains being established everywhere, and we just want to be on the radar and present a story that says, hey, don't forget about South Africa. So this is largely what was packaged in our international roadshows, just to get on the radar of the right people. Here's my slide. Okay, I've lost something here, some control. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna skip through this one, but just to say that the opportunity is big, right? So when we say mining, and this is the battery value chain potential, taken from studies done mainly by the World Bank, but we've added insights from other sources. And when we say mining, it's not like, for instance, not mining of manganese. It's the manganese portion that can be diverted to the South African battery value chain, okay, plus nickel or whatever other minerals we may have, okay? So it's that portion of mining. Or when we talk about automotive, it is not the whole vehicle. It is just a pack, right? So it's a great opportunity, and it's worth our best efforts to make it happen. So the primary thing is this is a mammoth task. So for us, we need to divide the value chain into chunks that are have a chance of success on a standalone basis, so not dependent on the success of the whole program. Right, so you can divide it up into different ways, but for us, this probably makes the most sense. So on the upstream side, the strategy is really we start with what we have: mining assets, assets or minerals. Mining is what we've been doing for many centuries now. Refining, we've been pretty good. We've lost some capacity. We need to rebuild a lot of that and build it for different set of minerals. But the key is to downstream value add as far as possible. As a regional play as well, one of the tactics that IDC employs is in any transaction we get involved in, we want to secure offtake rights so that we can support the next project downstream, whether it involves the same partners or not. Right? And then if I skip to the other side, we have, as I said, an incredible stationary storage market right now. But the key thing there is probably, can we take advantage of that inertia to prepare for an automotive transition, right? Can we develop some skills, some infrastructure like testing and certification, etc. So use it as a precursor. Excuse the pun. Another pun is on the automotive side. Yeah, we know we're not in the driver's seat, but I think we need to, we are already engaging to get an understanding of what we need to prepare for. Of course, there's a country-to-country competition right now. We don't have $385 billion to throw at problems like some nations do. But in the main, we still have an offering, and the time will come where supply chains also get diversified geographically as well. I honestly believe that. So when that comes, we need to be ready with an offering. Then cell manufacturing, of course, that's the pinnacle that links the two sides of the value chain together. It's ambitious, but if our generation doesn't go for this, then I don't know, my children are going to be asking very difficult questions, right? It's not next year, right? So I know we start losing some credibility when we talk about this. We're not talking about next year. This is a long-term game plan. But as a nation, can we afford not to prepare for this? So we've done a little bit of homework. It looks like, with in fact confirmation from the manufacturers, that about a 5 gigawatt hour line is an economic unit at the cell manufacturing level. Of course, you need more economies for a competitive supply chain, which is probably the bigger challenge. But the factory itself, and can we afford 10 billion rand? It's probably down to about 7 now, I think. As a nation, for sure. One entrepreneur or institution, that's a different story. We're also looking at vanadium redox flow batteries. So we're mindful of technology lock-in. So we need to be careful not, to keep abreast of development. But the key thing we look for there is strategic partners. So for technology, equity, and offtake. Okay, so this may be my last slide, just to show some of the progress that IDC is making. We have the fortune of broad industry play, so we can actually support the full value chain. But you can see the focus has been on the midstream portion. We've got a lot of projects. Oh, sorry. So this schematic here is a copy and paste from the World Bank study. So they call it the flagship report. All we've done here is added the black dots, which is where IDC has some level of commitment. Most of these are projects that some type of funding has started flowing, but others is just resources committed. And yeah, you can see we've got quite a few in the processing side, but gearing towards the midstream portion. So as an example, NMC powder, this is an IDC project, meaning we don't have partners in there yet, but we've released 25 million rand for the development of that. Technology is available, but we're open for a technology partner. Offtake, of course, the project is not going to go ahead without securing that, which also means quality can be semi-secured. But on the supply side, we've got some MOUs already in place, so the feedstock is available. So that's just one example. I mean, we can finance up to about 100 million rand in the development phase of any project, although we prefer to be less than 50% financier of that project. But in this case, we're the only financier. So yeah, I think I can stop there. I think in the interest of time, we can probably take a few questions. I can't see screen or hands or anything, but that is my message for now, just to say, I think sometimes it looks like doom and gloom from the outside, but there is some work happening, right? And at some stage, we will be able to talk about things that we have in place, needing a little bit of help to take it to the next step. Thank you very much,
Fantastic.
Michael.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ntate Mohale. That was very inspiring and also very, transformational, and a lot of details, a lot of information, and also a lot of new opportunities. I think for those, young people who are seeing opportunities for entrepreneurship and so on, I think we certainly need to encourage them to come in and play in this very important new economy that our country is currently exploring. So thank you very much for those insights. As you pull down your slide, I would like to request all my speakers to come back online and put on their cameras, because we are now moving into the Q&A. And as I indicated earlier on, we've got around less than 15 minutes to quickly go through a few questions that have come through, and I'm going to ask that we become short and sweet in responding to some of the questions that have come through. And then also for those who want to raise their hands and pose questions, please feel free to do so that we can be able to accommodate your questions. Brandt, we're going to start with you. There's a question from Karen, who's saying that what are your thoughts on the shift towards e-mobility in the country with a robust internal combustion engine auto sector that we have in South Africa? So what are your thoughts about this evolution to electrification?
Yeah, my view is that it's going to be a slow process because of a number of reasons. But the most important reason is affordability. There's no doubt in my mind that if we want to unlock the potential of the South African car market, then we need to enhance affordability considerably. And at present, it doesn't appear as if it's a government priority to assist or to enforce a swing towards e-mobility. They have other priorities which one can understand: housing, education, infrastructure, a long list of other priorities. And for government to set money aside for either incentives or exempting EVs from VAT, or it's unlikely that they will create a special and a meaningful budget to subsidize and encourage the swing to electric vehicles. So I believe the internal vehicles fitted with traditional internal combustion chamber engines will remain part of South African life for many, many years to come.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Brandt. Greg, Gary Newton is asking whether there are any learning material that he can research to implement your fundamentals on motor group level. I see potential with supply chains and in-house implementations, but it would apply on a smaller scale than OEM level implementations. Your thought, Greg?
Yes, certainly, Michael. So, I mean, when it comes to learning more about the strategies, the disruptions, the changes and trends, we've got quite a bit of material on that. I'd be very happy to support anyone looking for more information. I can direct them to some of our research. It's available online. We've got the research report behind what I presented today as well. Happy to share that, Michael, with the community so they can read the detail behind it. So again, happy to be that person. You've got my contact details, hopefully, or you could share them. We could make that happen.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, Greg. Kashani, I think there are two questions from Tsetle. He's seeking to know, can the battery value chain replace the ICE economy in value? Should SA be an exclusive NEV society? That's question number one. And then the second question, do we have volumes to support cell manufacturing locally, especially with the different technologies used by OEMs? Your thoughts, Kashani?
I don't think, I don't know, maybe it's a hypothetical question, but I don't think the aim right now is to totally substitute ICE. It's a transition period, and I think the timing is quite tricky for anyone to forecast. Like, when will we be completely ICE, right? But we also need to take into account that from an economic perspective or affordability perspective, there's going to be a lot of people that are unable to move as quickly, right? And not just South Africa, but the continent and a lot of the Southern Hemisphere. Yeah, I think it needs to be a transition. From a volume perspective, in the foreseeable future, again, I can't say when a transition will happen, right? But for now, I don't think there should be any model that depends on South African EV volumes if you want to support manufacturing sector, right? As I said, I kept highlighting we're geared for export, and that's what we should be developing ourselves for, right? Of course, the economics of transporting things around the world might not make sense, but doing it for vehicles, can we do it for vehicles with a battery that, you know, has a lot of a local content? And it doesn't have to be the full battery. Perhaps you import some cells, but make some locally, like a standard cell, and then you top up with others from other parts of the world, which is pretty much how you are vehicle. So yeah, I don't know. Now I'm speaking to the auto industry. So it would be great to hear.
Fantastic.
If that resonates.
Yeah, thank you. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Greg, another question from Paseka Letsatsi, who wants to know, do you think the level of technology in South Africa matches that on the global stage, especially within the automotive industry? Meaning, are we ready for all these changes, looking at the current infrastructure, that we're currently seeing, things like, 2IR and so on?
I think we've proven ourselves as a country to be one of the most innovative in the world, and we can continue to do so within the opportunities presented to us in this automotive transformation. So a combination of things. I think obviously manufacturers continuously investing into the plants with automation technologies, with digital tools and digital twins, as I mentioned. We'll continue to see the best technologies coming from around the world to keep South African production as competitive as it can be. I think what's even more exciting is the innovation happening around the sector itself, and testament to what naamsa has done to open up the ecosystem of automotive, Michael. So we've got different players supporting the industry in there now. So, for example, the charging networks that need to be built. We've got some pioneers that have done that already. We're starting to see others bringing on off-grid EV charging solutions, which really, in my experience, and at least within the Accenture world, we see as a world first, particularly when comparing to places like Europe. So, in short, I think the answer is yes. I think let's definitely continue to see the innovation, and it's exciting to see what will come from it.
Okay, fantastic. I see we've got a hand from Motlatsi. I'm going to request that we unmute him so that he can be able to ask the question. Motlatsi, if you're comfortable to share your video with us so that we can see your face, that will be even be more amazing. Motlatsi, go ahead.
I'm not sure if I'm audible. Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah, so my question really was to Mr. Mohale, right? Especially around the transition from internal combustion engines into e-vehicles, right? I think whilst the auto sector is really changing drastically, what remains constant is the decisions around early sourcing and making decisions around key locations for manufacturing of e-batteries, especially that it is concerning that we still do not have policy certainty from a South Africa point of view that addresses our evolution into alternative energy vehicles. And beyond that, we're still lagging behind in terms of having stability, in terms of who, what, where, in terms of the manufacturing or exploring that value chain. So I'm just worried about the speed or absence thereof from a South Africa point of view in terms of responding to the very rapid change that we are seeing in the globe. And is there a plan in any way that we have to really try and get, to streamline the process and become a lot more ready earlier?
Kashani?
Yeah. That is one of our biggest frustrations, right? That we're caught in between industry and government. So a lot of these questions get directed at us, but I 100% agree with you. In fact, when I mentioned that, our prospective partners are not concerned about skills development or load shedding or ports, issues at the ports, right? They do very specifically, almost thematically mention policy certainty. Right? Even one of the battery manufacturers said to us, listen, I don't need volumes from you, right? If you have a policy, I know what Mercedes-Benz is going to do. You know what I mean? Like they put it like that. So yeah, that's one. The other they mentioned is the competitive supply chain and then the scale of the market. So there's a few things that would, attract attention from their perspective, but also from a policy perspective. Maybe back to the question addressed to Wombrand is the priorities of incentivizing a local market when we don't have the capacity to supply electricity is a tricky one. Our grid is unstable at a local and national transmission level. So there's a lot of issues besides just the financing of the transition. So there's some technical concerns as well, which are multi-sectoral as well. So it's quite a complex thing to navigate. But my view is we need to keep moving. It's inevitable. The sooner we prepare, the better. And we share some of the same frustrations as well, which unfortunately are not in our hands.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, Kashani. Wombrand, there's another question from Sihle Dlamini, who's asking either you or Greg, with Africa being the next big market in the future, and each country trying to build their own individual manufacturing capabilities and capacities and to reindustrialize, how can South Africa, particularly our OEMs in this country, position themselves as a significant player in the continent for this transition? Wombrand, any thoughts about the threats that Africa is posing to the South African OEMs?
Yeah, my recommendation is that we ask Greg to answer that question, because he's much better equipped than what I am. So, Greg, over to you.
That was
no pressure, Greg.
No problem.
And Billy will also want to take that because he also plays in Africa.
Yes, sure. Maybe just a quick response then, Wombrand. Africa really is an opportunity more than a risk in our view for the South African automotive market. I think with the trend being that the ICE vehicle manufacturing in South Africa will extend for much longer than the rest of the world will look at South Africa as the place to continue to make these vehicles for markets like Africa. And I think we're seeing some great progress with the AAAM as well, with Martina's driving that in terms of putting the alliances in place with the likes of Egypt and even Morocco to some extent, but also Rwanda and Ghana, Kenya. These are key countries that are all in a Team Africa spirit, building, I think, the future automotive manufacturing capability of the continent. And I'll just add, I think we also have an opportunity to leapfrog a little bit the rest of the world collectively, like we did with mobile phones, leapfrogging landlines in Africa. I think with the rollout of renewables in Africa, coupled to manufacturing of e-mobility products, not just passenger vehicles, but buses and trucks and taxis, I think on the commercial side, I think we could get further down the line faster than the rest of the world as Africa. Billy?
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Greg. Maybe just a quick shout out. Martina is on the line, our Chief Executive Officer of Volkswagen Group Africa, and she's also the president of AAAM. So she is definitely also on the line. Billy, do you want to weigh in also on that question quickly?
Yeah, no, thanks, Mike. And I don't know why Greg was scared to answer, because he gave all the good answers. I think, Mike, from my side, firstly, I think Africa is an opportunity for South Africa. Because if you look at the intra-African trade, it's a huge opportunity. Because if you look at the European Union, the intra-European Union trade is sitting at 80%. But if you look at Africa, we're sitting at 15%. And if we start trading with each other, instead of getting our currencies to circulate within Africa, we can create a lot of value for ourselves, because a lot of times our currencies go outside the continent. And then if it gets closer to the auto industry, for each 100 cars made in Africa, about 53 are made in South Africa. It shows how big we are. And also, one thing we're proud ourselves of is we manufacture vehicles for the so-called first world countries. So we've really established ourselves. My view is where the opportunity is, there's a lot of vehicles being dumped into Africa, being imported into Africa. And I think if South Africa and the rest of the African countries can start collaborating, it will open up a lot. And but you need scale. And where the opportunity for us is to start working with other countries on light manufacturing, where we build SKDs, send to the countries, they assemble them. Then we start making more and more vehicles in Africa. So I see a huge opportunity within the continent out of South Africa. I don't see it as a threat. I think there's more vehicles coming in than being produced in Africa. Thanks, Mike.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Billy. Yeah, so thank you very much. I know that we absolutely have a lot of questions that came through. I saw also a question from Refilwe. I see her hand is up already, which also indicates that she really wants to ask this question. Maybe let me take that as the last question, Refilwe. If we can be able to unmute Refilwe, and if you don't mind, put on your camera so that we can, your video, so that we can be able to see you, Refilwe, and then you can ask your question. Refilwe, go ahead.
Thank you. I think I actually wanted to hop on the same question with the intercontinental trade, mainly wanting to understand where does the African continental free trade come into play, because we spoke about the EPA, we spoke about AGOA. How do we incorporate? And I never see the link when we talk about the African trade. We talk about the opportunities, but how does it come into play with the African continental free trade, and where do we see that opportunity, especially from making auto attractive in Africa?
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Refilwe. Good to see you. Billy, do you want to take that quickly, and so that we can wrap up? I'm mindful that we have run out of time.
I think, Mike, there's a lot of work being done in preparing for that trade within Africa. I might say, if you look at the work done on rules of origin, I think probably 90% of the countries have signed. We left with probably about 10%. And I think that will be the start of that trade within the African continent. I think where the challenge is, and I think, Martina, it's a pity we're out of time, we'll talk more, is understanding the value chain. We cannot all manufacture cars, but you can play in the value chain. And I think that's part of the work that's being done in Africa. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. If you look at West Africa, a lot of OEMs were into Ghana. Now we can't do the same thing in Ivory Coast, but Ivory Coast can play a role in the value chain. Then that helps understanding, because if we manufacture the same thing, we're not going to have scale. And I think there is a lot of work that is being done in terms of understanding which part in the value chain each country will play. And I think that there's been work around that. Thanks, Mike.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much, Billy, for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very grateful and thank you. I want to take this time to thank all our speakers. Greg, Chris, thank you very much. Mr. Kashani Mohale, thank you very much. And Tate Billy Tom, our president, thank you very much. But most importantly, our ambassador, and Tate Brand Pretorius, who has been gracious in affording us an opportunity to spend these 2 valuable hours with us this morning. Brand, thank you very much for waking up early this morning. I saw your SMS, WhatsApp message this morning at 4:30 that you are definitely still coming through. And that made me very smile, put a very big smile on my face. And with that, I'm going to request Tate Billy Tom. I think we've got a small token of appreciation for you. To thank you for joining us today. And I'm going to request that the team in the NAMSA office, as we spotlight the main boardroom at the NAMSA office, and ask Billy to officially hand over the NAMSA chair to you. For our guests on the line, this NAMSA chair is actually a recycled tire, which is coordinated, and there's a female-owned business in the Eastern Cape, which produces these beautiful chairs. And NAMSA has obviously adopted these chairs as one of our gifting presents to many of our clients and key stakeholders. So, Brand, with that recycled tire, we really want to thank you. And I'm going to request Billy to hand it over to you, as our gesture of appreciation for you to join us this morning. That is Tom?
This is a token of appreciation from our side. When you sit in the afternoon and having your afternoon tea, you can sit and enjoy our locally made product. And without those few words, I want to say thank you for today, and thank you for being the ambassador for NAMSA. We really appreciate it. But it's not only about today, but it's about the 50 plus more years that you dedicated to this industry. I think the shadow of the tree we enjoy today was planted by people like yourselves. And for that, we want to say thank you very much. We really appreciate the work you've done. Bye, bye.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for this very, very special gift. I will certainly treasure it. It will remind me of a very vibrant, dynamic South African motor industry boasting quality leadership, CEOs with initiative and with courage. If we take into account the success that the industry has achieved in terms of vehicle exports. So things that we never thought would be possible have been made possible because of innovative, courageous leadership. So this particular gift will remind me of what can be done. So thank you so much. And thank you to Mike and his team for the wonderful hospitality. And thank you, Mr. President, for gracing us with your presence here today. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Brand. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And I'm very grateful that many of you have stayed on the call post the 12 o'clock mark. I know that many of you had hard stops. We are very grateful that you were able to join us today. So thank you. We want to take this time to really appreciate your presence. Our next masterclass is going to be on the 8th of August. It's also going to be online, followed by the third one on the 22nd of August, and then the last one is going to be on the 5th of September. Tune in and obviously look at your LinkedIn page, where we are certainly going to be sharing some of the information with you. With that said, this brings us to the end of our masterclass today. Thank you very much for joining us. The masterclass is adjourned. Thank you very much.